Hi, I'm Morgan Dreamus with RT Book Reviews, and I'm joined today with one of my best friends in the whole world and author, Leanna Renee Hieber. I had to say that you were one of my best friends because you were literally the first person I met in New York City.
Yep.
And
seems like ages ago.
Years ago. And at that time, I was going to school. I was going to grad school and seeing if I wanted to write. And you were still an aspiring author. You hadn't even been published at that time.
No.
And in the last 4 or 5 years, how many books is this now?
Well, I did a tally the other day. It's 5 books, 4 novellas, 5 short stories, a musical script, a few other random projects, probably about 100 some blog posts. It's, which I would add up to another novel length. It's kind of insane. Yeah, and you helped me edit my very first novella too. So
I did.
It feels like it's been so many years, and really it hasn't necessarily been, but there's been so much work in between.
It's the intensity of it.
I know, right?
And so I've seen you go from aspiring author to bestseller with your Strangely Beautiful series. Yeah. You've also won 2 Prism Awards.
There's 3 actually.
3 Prism Awards. So it's like, it's almost, and like you said, you're working right now on a Broadway musical, or a musical that will hopefully one day, casting, writing the music.
I'm not doing the music, thankfully.
Right.
We have a wonderful, wonderful man named Kenny Seymour, who is currently the musical director of Memphis, he's handling all of those things. I do many things. Composing music is not one of them. So
it's kind of unbelievable. It's kind of, I'm not sure a lot of people can really get the scope of just how much you've been up to. And now you're going in a completely different direction because you're writing young adult.
Yes, and also, though, still taking with me my favorite time period. So I'm going to be on a different shelf, but still with a very similar feel as far as my love of the Victorian era, my love of the late 19th century, specifically the 1880s. That seems to be my decade. And and so fans of the Strangely Beautiful series will definitely find a lot to love about Magic Most Foul and Darker Still. The differences are it's a much more intimate scope in young adult. It's told in first-person diary entries. So you really have more of an intimacy with some of the characters than you do in, say, with Strangely Beautiful's epic scope and, a third-person narrative. So the narrative style is very different, but my themes of dark, spooky, eerie magic with fun, spliced in with hopefully some humor and some fun alongside of all of that. The adventure is in some ways similar. I hope it carries through both places. I'm excited to be on both shelves.
I think that fans that have already read your other work will definitely be able, like you said, to find the similarities in the story, especially your voice. Now, I talk about this all the time. The style of your writing and the voice that you're able to achieve, it's lyrical and beautiful and lush, and it's just, I don't even know how that's capable, but every time I pick up one of your books, I get that. I feel enveloped, like you said, in that time period, and it makes me want to put on like beautiful skirts and go dancing. I don't even.
My job is done. My job is to make you all want to put on corsets and gowns and make you run out into the street screaming, crying in the rain. The Gothic style has been so much a formative part. I mean, my many years in theater definitely has formed my narrative voice. 10 years as a professional actress, all the while writing my stories. The Victorian era has been something with me since I was a child, so I don't really know where that came from other than it's just been something I've loved all my life. Since I was a child, my first favorite books were all the 19th century spooky classics. A lot of my themes are still remaining similar, tied. I'm still interested in the disenfranchised. I'm still interested in the outcasts. I'm still interested in women who are trying to find their place in a time in which women's places were very defined and how they work with that and against that. I thought all of that stuff is really, really fascinating to me because I also think that, history is never dead. History is always changing. We're always learning more about it as we go. Living in New York City, there's so much. We walk down the street, you see so much history. You're interacting with it. You're living with it every single day. I'm so excited to now, with the new series, be living in the place where I've set the series.
The city changes, and people move in and people move out, and buildings are, put up and others are taken down, but some of the real keystones of the city are still here, and you use those in such a beautiful way. And so people that are familiar with the city will absolutely find these places that they're going to go back to and look at in a different light, and people unfamiliar with the city will get something really special out of it and get a taste of maybe what it's a little bit like, not only in the 1800s or in the 1900s, but also kind of what it's like now, because you can still walk by these magical places and be in the park. And
absolutely. I mean, it's these are things that we take for granted as being a part of our daily lives, but I mean, they were sort of life-changing institutions for 19th century New York. And the Metropolitan, the interesting thing about the Met as I present the Met in 1880, when it was founded in 1870, it's brand new in 1880. And it does not look like the way it looks today. If you go inside the Metropolitan, there is a part along above the sculpture garden over the American wing. There's a part of this red sandstone and gray granite facade that was the original facade of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So that was the original. Then it was expanded in the late 1800s. In the 1890s, it was expanded. I give hints of that expansion to come. I think the idea that history is about the layers of our lives, the layers of our generations, the layers of our ancestors. I think even seeing that literal layer inside the Metropolitan is a great sort of metaphor for writing historical fiction, because it's about peeling back layers and seeing what's there that we still have, seeing what's there that we don't have. And for me, I just want to make that history exciting and also accessible for teens, for adults, for anyone who comes across my work. I want history to be something that's fun. I grew up loving historical fiction, so my love of that era comes from my teenage years, and so I want to share that with, I want to share that in young adult literature as well.
Well, it's not just history that you peel back the layers, it's also your characters. You see on the outside your characters, and you can see this through all of your writing, they tend to be different. They're not your average run-of-the-mill, everyday person. Percy from your last series, she was an albino, so she looked very different. In this series, Natalie is actually mute. And so outwardly, they present what people, they immediately assume, oh, she can't speak, therefore she must be stupid or she's not worth knowing. And they have all of these stereotypes that they place on her. But then you take her and you peel back her layers, and we start to see her inner person and her inner thoughts. Like you said, it's in the diary format. So we read her experiences, and we get to know her so well. You feel like you're on this journey with her.
Yes, I hope that's the case. I mean, I think that when you have a character that has any kind of disability, your job as an author is to make them relatable, because everyone can relate to someone who's struggling. We can all relate to that. Every young girl can relate to feeling like she doesn't have a voice, whether literally or figuratively. And I think with Natalie's condition of selective mutism, it's not that she physically can't speak, it's that she had a trauma when she was young, and that sort of cut her voice to the quick in a way. And then there was a layers of social anxiety disorders that layer on top of that make speaking very, very difficult. And a lot of times, children will just sort of shut down. They won't shut down their lives, but they'll shut down a part of themselves. And so within her diary, she has this lush, rich narrative voice. She's very opinionated. She has, she doesn't just sit back and she sort of takes life by the horns as much as she can, but she's always struggling with the idea that presented to her that she's an unfortunate. The same thing with Percy. As an albino in Victorian England, she's considered a freak. And so she has to come to the point where she can try and deal with what's presented to her versus what she knows she's capable of, both of them. They know they're capable of so much more than the world is telling them. And thankfully, they find wonderful people along the way who know that, who foster that, who bring that out in them, even if they can't always see it themselves. I try and surround themselves with some really wonderful partnerships. My books are about assembling the Scooby Gang together to have adventures and to fight strange, spooky things and discover ghost stories and all of those various things. I think outcasts finding community a healthy community is such a powerful theme for me, and it seems to be something I keep coming back to.
Well, let's talk about who Natalie finds, because it's not your ordinary. Just like she's pretty extraordinary, her hero, Denbury, or can I call him Jonathan?
You can call him Jonathan.
Okay.
I'll let you have that familiarity.
Jonathan. He is, okay, get ready for it. He is trapped in a painting.
Yes, he is.
And she's actually able to move through the painting and connect with him on a spiritual level. And I love when they first meet, and I say meet because she literally walks up to the painting and he starts leaving her notes and clues within the painting that he's talking to her. And for her to start realizing, I'm him, what? And it's just, there's this connection that is just undeniable. And it's so cute and fun and different from probably any other love story I've ever read, because literally she goes through this into his world and he's the only person that can hear her and that she's able to speak to.
Yeah, I can't take credit for the painting changing idea. That's all Oscar Wilde. That's all The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is one of my very favorite novels. So each one of the books in the Magic Most Foul series has a specific homage to a particular 19th century classic. That's sort of the grounding, sort of my Rosetta Stone for the story. So the first novel is The Picture of Dorian Gray. The sequel will be Frankenstein. The third book will be Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Various little things that become sort of a through line for the book. Mm-hmm. But I've always wanted to write a haunted painting story. Ever since I saw Don't Eat the Pictures, the Sesame Street special, Don't Eat the Pictures, where all the Sesame Street gang are trapped in the Metropolitan Museum of Art after hours. I love that thing. And then I read Dorian Gray. I was like, okay, can I make Don't Eat the Pictures and then Dorian Gray, but then make it a love story?
So wait a second, we're talking Muppets?
Yeah, Muppets.
Oscar Wilde. Yeah. Together.
Yeah, that's kind of me.
And then throw in a wonderful love at first sight, sweet romance.
Yeah, I loved the idea that there's this that it's a different type of interaction in a love story where it's literally their spirits. The magic within Magic Most Foul is working on splitting a soul from a body. So literally his soul is trapped in the painting while his body, this doppelganger, is literally possessed and is killing women in the 5 points. So there's this sort of polarized, very scary side of Denbury that's out there in the world, but that's not him. His consciousness, his conscience, and his true self is banished to this painting. It's been split apart. And so Natalie's true self, her best self, the part of her that knows that she can speak, that's what travels into the painting. It's literally their souls, their spirits that are together. And there's something very automatically intimate about that. You kind of can't help but knowing someone, truly very quickly. So it is a very fast-paced romance, and the fact that they fall for each other pretty quickly, but there's kind of no way around it.
But they see each other's true selves.
Yeah.
Like it is just, there's no veneer, all the stereotypes that all the other characters have put on her are taken away. Right. She's not seeing him for what's his wealth, what's his title, she's seeing the true person. And I think that's what makes it so believable that they are able to fall into love so quickly, because they can see that.
I hope that's. I mean, that definitely was my intent, and I think that it's fun to reverse the tradition of the damsel in distress. In this case, it's the girl who saves the guy. I mean, Lord Denbury, he doesn't really have a whole lot to do in this novel because he's really stuck. The ways in which he is active is the ways in which he enters into Natalie's dreams, and there he becomes almost this guardian angel character, this sort of literal light for her through the darkness of her nightmares, which become terrible clues towards these murders. And probably the spookiest parts of the book are in her nightmares and the clues she finds there. And so Jonathan's sort of her quite truly spirit guide through her own subconscious. But in the end of the day, in order to get back out of the painting, she's the one in the outside world, as she's going in and out. She's the one who's solving a mystery, putting these pieces together. I mean, he's helping as best he can, but he's constrained. And it's been fun to, as I continue the series, to now that Jonathan is coming into the story in a different way, he's still, we continue to follow Natalie and Jonathan throughout the whole series. Finding new ways where he gets to have his little action moments as we move forward. But in the first book, it really is about, I was interested in what if we can just have a story where it's just flat out the girl saves the guy. And especially a girl who's been written off as a useless part of society saves the guy. That to me is something sort of worth cheering for.
And it's not a passive save either. I mean, she actively follows a very dangerous path. It's not something like, oh, and then this happened. Like, she really puts herself out there in a way that I don't think I ever could. That she's so brave.
She's so brave.
Exactly. It's like, I would be just completely terrified, and she jumps into it because she knows she's the only person that can do this.
Yeah, the way that the magic, the world building of the magic is very selective. It's very very specific. No one else can go into this painting. Her sort of mentor character has even tried. She knows that it's up to her. She can't turn it over to the police because what policeman is going to believe that there's this possessed body versus the soul in a painting and all these various things. She feels like she really has nothing else to do, but she has a very clear sense of mission. She feels that she's fallen into a fateful situation, and she's kind of pragmatic about it. And she's like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to dress in boys' clothes, and I'm going to go downtown, and I'm going to do these things, and she just looks at it as, okay, I have to do this, and as the mystery unfolds, what she has to do becomes clear, and she's got a very, very keen sense of instinct about what needs to be done, and I'm sitting there writing it going, wow, I'm putting you into a lot of situations I would not want to put myself, but she came to me as such a strong voice that I just kind of had to sit back and let her do what she wanted to do. So,
well, I have to ask you. I know because I know you personally, and I've actually seen you go through the process of writing books, and I know that oftentimes you put a lot of yourself in your characters. That you, in different ways, you very much relate your past experiences and things that you've gone through, like obviously not walking through paintings, but personality-wise, that I do see so much of you in your characters. For Natalie in particular, what would you say are some of the traits that you have that you were able to impart onto her?
It was fun to have a completely different part of myself go into Natalie than, say, Percy. Percy's so meek and she's so timid, but yet she's so passionate. And so her passionate and her energy, that's very, very me.
Definitely.
With Natalie, her opinionated moments, when she's a little opinionated about things. She knows what she likes, she knows what she doesn't like. She has a flair for the dramatic in her own way. That's definitely me. She has an obsession.
Somebody makes her mad and she's serving tea and she takes their teacup and she storms. She's not going to serve them because they don't deserve the tea.
No, you just insulted her.
Very dramatic.
Very dramatic. And sort of she has a sense of justice, the way that things should be. She has a kinship with people who have felt like they are disenfranchised as well. I'm interested in those stories, just as she is. And I think that her love for the spooky, her love of a good ghost story, her lure to the supernatural is very much me. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know if I'd be as brave as her, but I know I would be interacting with a painting that was interacting with me. I mean, I know that I would be like, okay, bring this on. So she's not afraid of, she has a lot of nightmares. I have epic nightmares. I mean, there are various things that just, that aspects of me that do factor in. But then, I mean, it is very important, though, that an author never write a character, unless you're writing an autobiography, an author never write a character that is completely them, because then you lose perspective, and then it becomes uninteresting, frankly, and a bit self-indulgent. So I want to make sure that there are aspects of myself and aspects of things I know about the world that thread into my books, but it's a very important moment when the characters become themselves, their own selves, separate from me, and that's when they actually become viable characters.
And we're going to see that more because we got a little taste of books number 2 and 3 coming out. What are the dates for those? Do we know?
No idea about the third. Book 2 is tentative. I don't want to say too much lest Sourcebooks get mad at me. Book 2 is going to be the fall of 2012. We're just not exactly sure what. Things shift a bit, but hopefully trying to keep within a year release. So I don't exactly know how many books in the series there are going to be because I have to make some decisions. So I have to make some decisions about where this is going to go. It's not going to be one of those series that goes on indefinitely. This sort of has an end cap. The bad guys can't really do what they're going to do indefinitely. they're going to do some really crazy things, but because of how crazy it is, it's going to get shut down pretty quickly. So by our team. So it can't be one of those 13 books later, they're still doing the same supernatural crazy things. No, I have to. For me, I know I could write these characters indefinitely, but every author needs to know when they got to stop. So.
Well, and also I think another thing that people should be aware of is that your main characters, Denbury's 18 and Natalie is 17. And so at a certain time, like right now, doing these adventures and making sure to really, there's a lot, they really do try to keep people safe. Like society in a whole, they're trying to hopefully do their part to make sure that it stays safe and sane and all of that. At a certain point, it's kind of like give these characters a break and let them kind of have that next step in their lives too.
But the hard thing about the Victorian era is that there was no such thing as a teenager. The word teenager was not invented until the 1900s.
Right.
Until the 1950s, really. Like, you were a child and then you were an adult. And so Natalie and Denbury have this situation where they're sort of actually adults, but yet there really isn't that transitional period. So they're suddenly realizing, oh wait, society's going to expect us, if we're sort of like hanging out, society's going to expect us to get married, like, before we do anything.
Right.
So that pressure is on them too, and that provides, as you know, writing a romance where you're trying to write for a modern audience that, you know, that does understand the transition from childhood to adult, trying to sort of lift this up as both a source of conflict and also just sort of representative of a very, very different time.
Well, I think you did a marvelous time bringing the 1800s, or I keep saying 1800s, the 1880s, and bringing that 19th century aesthetic into your book. And I know that readers are going to love it. Fans of yours are going to love it. And people new, you know, some young adult readers finding you for the first time, I think they're going to, after reading this series opener, they're going to want to go back and just get more.
I hope so. That's
Thank
the
you.
hope. Thank you so much.
You.
It's so good to be up here with you. Thank you.